Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to be... Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to be bringing you 10 reasons why you should be playing Floe from Pika/Fantasia Games. Now, we are working with a prototype here. There is an active Kickstarter project going on, but if you're watching this sometime in the future, when the game has already delivered, the bones, the framework, the idea behind this project is available. We've experienced it, you can experience it for yourself, and we're going to tell you why you just might should. Now, all the points we have here also probably work in the opposite way as well, so if you want 10 reasons not to play, hear us in reverse or inverse?
Yeah.
Something like that. This is Dennis. He is a lovely firefighter. Leave a comment down below saying, hey man,
I checked my smoke detectors this month.
Oh, I was going to do something more seductive and sensual, but
Oh, well then.
he's a man who likes if you check your smoke detectors.
Yeah.
So, do you want to give a quick overview on what Floe is? Very, very surface level. And
Surface
then
level.
we'll tell people why they should be playing. By the way, this video and none of the videos on this prototype copy of Floe are sponsored content, just in case you were curious.
All right. So, this game, Floe, you are taking your heroes, which are meeples like these, and you're going to be going around the map exploring, doing different things. You may be getting down here and getting resources, getting into the cave to defeat monsters and progressing through that track. You'll be heading up to the village, where you can get more heat, which is the resource that you use to travel and use as health in the cave. And there's also various actions at the shop, the works, various locations that you can do that do different things that get you better stuff.
Yeah, the main objective of Floe is to explore, develop your own personal tableau, upgrade your skills, and hunt for victory points. It doesn't have a whole plethora, a slew of victory points at the end of the game. You trigger endgame when the first person has 6. You have one more full round, and then you check to see who's won, with the high score so far being 10.
Yep. And
So,
absolutely,
few and far between.
Yep, you can get over 10, but it's not going to get too much more.
Yeah, it's very much building towards that final kind of all pieces fall into line, close the game style experience. A little bit of worker placement, a decent amount of resource management, some tableau building, maybe a little bit of programming depending on how you want to order your actions or how far ahead you want to think. Some adventuring mixed in here when it comes to the quest, comes to the experience that you're getting. Some of the locations you're going to feel very experiential. And then you have a little bit of fighting. So you gain resources, you roll some dice, and you go hunt some creatures. You can win in any variety of ways, but you probably need some combination of all of the above in order to be competitive towards endgame. That being said, let's tell them 10 reasons they should be playing. You want to start out?
Yeah, so you basically just outlined my number one reason, which is a variety of mechanics. So in this game, you've got worker placement, you've got tableau building, you've got the rondel and the way that these villagers congregate and move around the village, resource scarcity, exploration, you've got cascading abilities. There's a lot of different things that you're doing, so if you're looking for a game that has a variety of different mechanics that brings it all together in a pretty cohesive puzzle that has a little bit of theme mixed in with it, this is a pretty good option.
Johnny Pack, who's one of the designers of this and a few of the other games coming from Fantasia, one of the co-designers, I believe, is known for kind of throwing the kitchen sink at games, both to his success and sometimes to his chagrin. I think this is one that's doing that very well and very responsibly, but you're right, there is a ton of different little elements, all of which are satisfying, and depending on how you want to play and experience the puzzle of this game, all of which could lead towards some style of victory.
Yep.
You went dungeon crawling.
I went dungeon crawling. I love the dungeon crawling.
I kind of went resource management. So, and maybe next time I play, I'll go, grab a sword and dive headfirst in the dungeon with you. And you'll sit down and focus on your mushroom garden a little bit more closely. My point number one, or point number two in this video, is going to be the publishing team behind this. This is coming from Fantasia Games. Pika is a subsidiary, a lighter, more accessible publisher version of their titles. And so far, Fantasia has put out good game after good game after, in the case of Endless Minds, or Unconscious Minds, fantastic freaking game. They're knocking it out of the park. So I have nothing but high expectations for this. If you're backing it on Kickstarter, all the Kickstarter stuff apply. You are putting an investment down for a game that's coming out down the road at some point. They have successfully delivered, but some of their projects have been a little bit late. So keep that in mind. You're also getting access to deluxeified components, upgrades, and the best possible production, which they have also proven a good track record of. So the publisher alone is one of the reasons why I would be considering this. Fantasia is one of those publishers that, for me, I'm paying attention to everything they put out. Right. Point number 3.
All right. So I've gotten here also thematics. So this game, I had a good time, just using my imagination, and I'm kind of an imaginative guy, but going up to the tavern and the banter around the table of having too many drinks, if I'm overusing the tavern action, you're getting out here, you're exploring, you're using your warmth as you go out and get further and further away from the village. Obviously, in an environment like this, you're getting colder and colder and colder. You get down into the cave, and the deeper you go, and the more you just get beat up by these monsters, you just start to feel cold, and you need the warmth of home again. So you have to return back home. You're with the villagers. For example, if you're over here and you've got all 3 of these villagers there, you're getting more warm than if you were over here by yourself. So this is going to give you 3 heat, whereas coming over here gives you 0 heat. So there's like that theme of just being around friends, even within the game, and getting the rejuvenation from that, while also getting the benefit of that location. Going out into the world on your own, adventuring, whether you're going by foot, going by land, you have a familiar that's following you around, and your little buddy. I really kind of enjoy the thematics. It's not a heavy thematic game. It's not dripping with theme, but it's got enough where the actions kind of make sense, and you know what you're doing, and you can connect it to the theme with the mechanics.
Yeah, I think the thematic and mechanics engine are very cohesive. It is simple in almost each regard. Mm-hmm. It's not overly pushy when it comes to the thematics. It's not overly pushy when it comes to the mechanics engine, but they work very well together. Mm-hmm. My next point number 4 for this video is, this is going to have something that I like seeing in games more and more nowadays. It's called a developing game engine. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a approachable game system coming from a lighter publisher, and it still can build to a pretty complex, pretty good table game. However, it'll be doing so by giving you unlocking envelopes that aren't legacy. They don't, change your game system, but they introduce new mechanics, new cards, some new rules. The first 3 games of Floe are going to be introductory games, getting you into the game engine and system. So it really is taking the approach of making it as easy to table as possible, giving you the teaching experience through playing the game multiple times, and bringing the whole family involved when you sit down and play. You can kind of gauge how much you want to add based on how receptive your family members are to what the new mechanics are. And after they've mastered it, if you're playing with a kid or you're playing with a couple kids, after they've mastered the game system at its current stage, you'll be able to open new things up, and your game will kind of be rejuvenated. It'll be re-experienceable again. And it's something I really like seeing from games like this that have so many other little pieces going on. I love seeing things that let me open something after I've already played the game 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah. That segues right into what I had next, which is, a kind of a dual thing here. It's the sweet spot of weight, and you teach as you play. So if you're got a group of friends that's coming together for a game night, and they're not, just like you said, they're not heavy into board gaming, you can introduce this game, take a couple of modules out, and even if you include those modules in, I never felt this game was overwhelming in its complexity, but it was deep enough. It's that sweet spot of weight for me, where it's got enough where you can take someone who's modestly into board games. I wouldn't say a brand new beginner board gamer, but somebody who's played a few games. Maybe they've got a wingspan under their belt and things of that sort, and some of these mechanics have been done in other games. You tie this all together, and I find it really hits that sweet spot of the weight, where you can get something out of it if you're a heavy board gamer, but then the light board gamers can get something out of it too. It's right in that sweet spot. And then, of course, like you said, with that sweet spot of weight comes is enhanced by having that teach as you play.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that board games are doing more and more and more. I just picked up a copy of Revive, which does the same thing. I really like that in these games. Jaws of the Lion did it, famously. I really enjoy that, what they're doing with these board games, where they're introducing the mechanics, much like we did in the video game industry years and years ago. Board games are catching up with that same idea, and I really like that.
So my next point is going to be talking about how you actually utilize the two workers that you have. You have your main worker, you have your secondary assistant, what's it called?
Familiar.
A familiar.
Something familiar.
So you have these two very adorable, very, very nicely paired characters together, but they each come with their own little traits and personalities, and how you use them in each stage of the game is unique. For instance, on the main exploration phase, you have a main action that you can take by searching out the island, finding hidden treasures, looking at the different monuments that are around there, and then your familiar pops up and gets you helpful resources and returns with some, piles of wood. In town, you can use your familiar to go to your actual village, the huts that you've built out. You can get resources from that. It's its own strong engine up in the village, where it's a little bit more of a secondary action down here in the explore phase. Or it can take another primary action for you, which is also very, very useful. And then finally, in combat, your familiar could hop in and could actually engage in a little bit of combat for you. I like the fact that there's something to be said for using both characters in every single location we go to, and the way that you utilize them changes in very important ways. I wasn't just thinking about one action with one character every time I played my turn. Instead, I was looking at the board and trying to piece out what was going to be the most useful action for both of my workers in whatever region I'm going to, and how I could kind of chain and program and prepare for future turns to be as effective and efficient as possible.
Yeah.
You can see all the buildings that I got specifically to enhance my familiar's town action as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Something that I really liked about this, and this would be the next point, would be all the stuff, all the upgrades that you can do. You can upgrade your familiar. You can upgrade your, I don't even know what you call this.
Asymmetric character powers.
Asymmetric character powers. You can upgrade your dice for your combat. And then you just get lots of stuff, whether it's bubbles, it's the, 4 different resources down here, the wood, the mushroom, the kelp, and the pearls. Then there's other things out there. There's just a lot of things.
Piles of weapons, piles of gear, quests that you can go on. There's a lot of little things that you're playing with.
Your potions, your crates. It's very satisfying when you get rewarded, when you take actions and you get stuff. It's just a very rewarding thing.
I had quite a few actions throughout the course of play that I did a lot of things in one session. I think all of us had that. We were like, I'm going to do this, and then that's going to trigger that, and that's going to do that. And that feels really good when you have a whole chaining of unlocking a treasure. That treasure gives you the resources to take the next action that lets you, move your worker to this location. All of that feels very satisfactory, and I had a few different instances where that came into play. Second to last point for me, point number 8, I believe.
8 for you, and then it'll be 9, and then 10, yeah.
I think so. Maybe it's 7, something like that.
I think you're on 8.
I've got 2 more points left, is what I'm trying to communicate. I like that this isn't overly take that. Now, if you watch our gameplay video, Shiro would probably beg to differ. I seem to have stepped on her toes one too many times during the course of play. However, this game really is fairly open-ended, fairly friendly. There's only a few resources that you're all scrabbling for, and even if you end up taking something from another player that they might have gotten in another turn or two, there's usually other ways they can find to get access to those resources as well. Overall, whatever you do in the game state isn't going to negatively impact the other players. Instead, it's oftentimes going to open up opportunities for them. If you explore, you'll be revealing things that they can go claim before you, because you're not going to be the first person to jump in there and grab it if you're the one that's getting the benefit of exploring and getting the experience or the victory points related to that. If you're hunting and fighting, you're going to be revealing creatures that they're going to have to fight down the road so they can prepare a little bit more strategically for them. So you're giving them information, but you're going to be ahead of the curve slightly, which is an advantage to you as well. And when you're going up here to the worker placement spot in the village, you're going to be moving those workers around, the townsfolk around, that'll give your other players heat and incentivize them going to other locations on the tableau. There really are no blocked locations. There's really no take that elements in the game outside of a few limited resources on the map. And the more that you play and the more that you reveal, the more you're really giving other players opportunities to do things and different objectives that they can go for. And I like that. If you like a friendly game, this very much is an exploration-based game that feels very friendly and very light on its feet.
Yeah, absolutely. My last one, this will be number 9, is the time of play. It says on the box it's 90 to 120 minutes, and we hit that time frame exactly. And we tabled it last night. Just for me, I tabled it last night, tabled it again this morning, and we're not pros at this game. We're not playing as quick and snap as we would if we were going to table this a few more times, and we still hit that time frame. So I find that to be useful knowing how long that's going to be on the table and knowing what to plan for. If you have a board game night and it's a Tuesday and you got to work the next morning, you don't want a game that's going to drag out 3, 4, 5 hours when you were setting it up expecting a 2-hour experience. And so for this game to advertise itself as a 90 to 120 minute game and then hit that mark, I think that's a benefit, and that's something I appreciate with publishers, have an accurate time frame on the box.
My final point is going to be a little nuanced for those board game connoisseurs out there who like experiencing new game systems or new mechanics. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in here. There's a lot of stuff that feels very familiar, but I'm always looking for what stands out amongst the crowd. I really like our resource engine here. The way that you always go to max and then spend all of your resources to do the main village action, giving you access to a lot of different opportunities, and then that resource bumps up, and suddenly the cost of that action is going to be slightly higher. Very, very satisfying if you're a game designer, if you're a board game connoisseur. This is something I have not seen in other games, at least in an equivalent way, as accessible as this is. I think it's something I'll see incorporated in future games based off of this game system, this game engine. Same thing can be said to our buildings and the different types of modularity that we have on the game board here. It's all very streamlined. It's all very accessible. And I really like it. Another thing, the dive action. Dive action is very satisfying.
Yeah.
It's always rotating, and depending on what people have gone down to get, how much they've pushed in towards of spending heat to get access to different resources, you just are shifting one down to the bottom and pushing up. Again, not innovative necessarily. I'm sure there's other games that have a very similar system, but in a game of this scope and this scale, little tiny module pieces that are as simple and accessible as that don't require a lot of upkeep or a lot of double checking. I'm not rolling dice, I'm not flipping cards, I'm not pressing my luck to see if I drowned or how much heat I lose as I go down. No. I get the resource I'm going for. Or I don't if it's not available, and then next time I come back through, I'll get access to it.
Yeah.
Everything's clean, everything's streamlined, and I think there's a lot to be said about just how much is going on here versus how hard it is to actually table and run. It's very easy to play, very easy to get up and running, and we're working with prototype rules, which means we're playing the worst version of this game.
And it's still pretty good. And even, you mentioned the dive action over here. And I talked about thematics earlier and how it ties to the mechanics. The deeper you go down in the water, the colder it is. So the more heat you're losing to get those items that are farther down. Yeah. It makes sense. The thematics tie into the game mechanics in a way that I find very enjoyable, and it helps me play the game a little more effectively.
So there you have it. 10 reasons why you should be playing Floe. If you're not, or you've listened through these reasons and you decide that it's really not the game for you, fair enough. Good for you. But if you hear at this point and you're excited about it, you're probably right, and you should get access to this game. Whether you back it on Kickstarter, I'll leave a link in the top of the video description, or you pick it up after the publisher has delivered it and hopefully got it into some retail store locations. I think this is one that'll do very well in the retail store space, and it's a game that, because of how approachable it is, I do hope some families pick it up beyond the more hobbyist gamer side of the industry. I could see this being something like the Grim Forest was, where some people get introduced to the hobby through its game system and game engine.
That would be cool. So the more people we get in this hobby, the better it is for everyone.
All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing.
Get out there and play some games.
And eat Brussels sprouts. We'll see you later. Bye.